goes to Bermuda and doesn't have a good time? Unless you lost $1 million on highlight, who goes to Bermuda and doesn't have a good time?
So I was one.
It must be Monday because we're sitting here talking golf. That's right. Now, we have an interesting week as we both look ahead to the Bermuda Championship, the Butterfield Bermuda Championship in Port. Everybody's excited, as you can hear, for the Butterfield in my house. Ben Rasa, my son has stepped in because you aren't as excited as the Shander household for the Butterfield.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I got painful memories. I've been to Bermuda once, didn't enjoy myself. I've gambled on this tournament quite a bit, never really enjoyed myself. So maybe this version will be the tide-turning event that we need. I was pretty happy with last week. Enjoyed Rory taking over the golf world as he should. Not great for the betting card because my first thing I said last week was I'm going to try to beat Rory and Rahm, and that is always difficult. But we were in the hunt. Tommy Fleetwood, Aaron Wise. I mean, these are names that came up, and that really did help the card for me. Kurt Kitayama, a lot of people were on him. I was not, but sharp people at this company were.
Oh, is that? Well, we were not. So
no, Jeff Ulrich. Jeff Ulrich on the Tuesday strategy show was adamant to put Kurt Kitayama on the card.
That crumb, because I do an NHA show with him twice a week, and we talk golf, and I reference us and this show on Putting for Dough, and I'll even bring up either at the beginning of the show or the end of the show. I'll slide some PGA talk in there because I know that's speaking to Jeff's heart. And he couldn't even slide over a Kitayama play.
He told me.
We brought up Aaron Wise, and he's like, oh, I'm on Wise. And I said, yeah, so is Rasa, and so is myself. And he could have slid in Kitayama. That selfish guy, you know?
No respect. I'll tell him that you're disturbed.
Oh, I'll see him today, actually,
okay,
at 3 o'clock.
You let him know. He might not show up because he's so rich from the Kurt Kitayama call. So you might be doing that show solo.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, look, neither of us are doing this solo as a result of winning anything last week, but I do have to ask you, before we get into what's going on here at BetMGM, before we get into the Butterfield at Bermuda, reminder for everybody to hit that thumbs up button, of course, subscribe. We want you to over 30K. This is beautiful to see the community continue to grow here on OddsShopper. But Chris is producing. I'm sure he caught this as much as I did right away, and I'm sure a lot of listeners did. Who goes to Bermuda and doesn't have a good time? Unless you lost $1 million on highlight, who goes to Bermuda and doesn't have a good time?
So I was one. I was 1 years old. My parents took me there, and I got an ear infection, and we had to leave. That's the extent of my travel. Only time I've ever been out of the country. True story. Went to Bermuda when I was one. Couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I don't know what they're doing over there. The modern medicine, no respect. They brought me back. My normal doctor, he has an ear infection. I survived. I lived to tell the tale. I have battled this course metaphorically, and I am back here to talk about it. Never again, though.
When it comes to course history, would you call that a missed cut, or what would you call it?
Yeah, certainly not a 40-20-10. This course, man. So jokes aside, it is crazy windy. It's an island, of course. Like we have to deal with weird elements at Port Royal here, and that's something you have to kind of almost bake in some weird results if you're looking back at what you get at the Bermuda Championship, because you're just going to get some iron shots that are errant, and it's not your fault.
Yeah, it's a big element, specifically that element that we're going to have to talk about here. Let's remind everybody before we do that what's going on at BetMGM, because it's a really cool opportunity. And I was explaining this to the people here, Ben, on another video on the OddsShopper channel, which is all you need to do. You're brand new to BetMGM. I know a lot of people out there, for whatever reason, are stuck on their one book of choice. That's it. Right? Like, I'm only on this one book for whatever reason, creatures of habit, etc. So we give you an opportunity on OddsShopper, both here, the YouTube channel, and on the site itself, free, both places, to shop around. You can't benefit from shopping unless you're on multiple books. So all you need to do is click that link below. It's going to bring you to BetMGM and just deposit $10. Like, that's really all you need to deposit, because that 10 will turn into $200 so long as you place it on any NHL money line bet. check out Rasa and the Discord, Andy, whatever you have here access to across the OddsShopper channels, because we're giving out hockey plays. And you don't even need to hit the bet, because as soon as the team scores a goal, $200 right back into your account. So it's a free bankroll, no-brainer, Ben, opportunity for everybody to start off with at BetMGM. And again, you don't even need to deposit like $1,000, right? Something daunting. It's just you could put $10 in and let this thing run for 200.
No doubt about it. It's just a great opportunity. Again, with golf in particular, when you look at these books, and it's, it's not always BetMGM. They're one of many books that sometimes they have the best numbers, sometimes they don't. Right. You want to have all those options. So when the books are giving you that opportunity, you want to take advantage. And I just want to, before we dive into the golfers, just want to clarify, because producer Chris, he's asking me what kind of story.
My ear's itching after all this.
It's not like I remember when I was one. I've been told though, from my parents, I went there, I got an ear infection, and we left. That's the story. So my Bermuda experience was limited at best. I get crazy.
Boy, that is a brave thing to put a 1-year-old on a flight.
What are they doing?
To go to Bermuda. What's JFK to Bermuda? Real quick, right?
I don't know where Bermuda is. I think it's off, I want to say North Carolina, but
it's a 2.5 hour flight, probably like 2:10. Okay, that's not terrible.
That bad.
No, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. All right.
I hate flying though.
Yeah, I would much rather drive, and in this case,
drive to Bermuda. That's bold.
I was just saying in this case it's pretty hard, but yeah. All right. So let's dive into it. Elements. That's going to be the big thing here. Seamus Power, correct me if I'm wrong, is the lone top 50 ranked player. He's not even the odds-on favorite. Denny McPutz is, but let's look at the top of the leaderboard. But before that, just the overall look at the course. You reference elements. It could get super windy. There could be rain. And if it rains, it's definitely going to pour there. So a lot of this is just approaching the course. And it's also the fact that this field is so bottom heavy, Ben. And yes, for all of those out there asking as they see the 40, 20, 10 below us, this is the return of the cut in these events.
Thank God. It's a weird situation when you look at the top of the board and you have guys legitimately who are the favorites that have no wins on the PGA Tour, guys that are searching for wins. And that's just what we get. So clearly, the win equity is all over the place in an event like this. It's not to say these guys aren't the rightful favorites, but Denny McCarthy, Thomas Detry doesn't have that much experience over here. Seamus has had a good year, but still, Aaron Rai, not names we're ever going to see inside the 30-1 mark too often. So that's just the new reality of what we're dealing with this week, and probably this week only.
Yeah, you're right to look at it from, this feels like a very NFL approach, right? Throw out what you saw last week. Don't worry about what you're looking at the following week or two. This is simply a matchup, right? This is a golfer to course history, even if that's just an earache, whatever the history is here, right? Factoring that in. And we have this. We played this last year in Mexico. We've done this a couple of times where it's either a newer course. Last week, as far as CJ being in South Carolina. So I think that this is new in the sense of people that may be betting golfer to course here this week at the Butterfield. The reality is the strategy may not be as new as it sounds today. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just think you have to put it in context. So I think a perfect example is if you look at, and you're saying, okay, let me take a little recent form, for swing season. Not that many of these guys played last couple of weeks, but particularly last week, if they did, you got to understand that they were playing, Denny McCarthy's a perfect example. He came in 37th. That's no good. Yeah, he didn't play great golf. He also was playing in a field with Jon Rahm and Rory McIlroy and those type of players. This is a totally different situation. The field strength is so low. So it's just level of competition. I don't want to overreact to much of anything. I'm just going to take this course and this tournament at face value and just try to evaluate the golfers as I see fit against these numbers.
Now, last week, we had a little bit of a snafu, if you will, where I came into the show all giddy and happy that I got a guy in Aaron Wise without even looking below and seeing who you picked, because you put your picks in after. I didn't even realize. So the both of us were on Aaron Wise last week. In this case, I tried to make it up to you, getting my picks in ahead of time. I left a really juicy guy that's technically at the top of the leaderboard. So consider this this is like a hockey assist. I was like the guy that touched the puck next to the guy that touched the puck that gave you the goal.
What happens if Sheamus misses the cut though? Like, do I get a rebate? Because I know you're talking about Sheamus power. 25-1 out there.
25-1. Come on, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the few guys in this field. Now he won the Barbasol. It's not exactly the Masters, but he has done it. The thing about him is he there? So he lost a whopping 7 strokes with the irons last week. That's like borderline unheard of.
Yeah.
He's working through some things. The short game is definitely in form. The approaches are definitely not in form, but it's golf. It's a fluid situation. That's just a number in this field that I have to have some interest in. So do I think you need to put Sheamus on the card? Absolutely not. I don't think you need to do that with any top end guys this week, but he was the name that I look and I say, I mean, this is a guy that when he was in form last year, he came in top 10 in a major. He was 12th at the US Open. I mean, he made the cut at Augusta. He's played in some big time events where most of this field cannot say that.
Yeah, this is, again, and golf is such a difficult sport because it doesn't always quantify over on the field, on the court, on the ice, where you have one person or one team that has that advantage over either a field or, I mean, even in other individual sports, it's kind of hard in the sense of golf where you need so many other things. You need him to be playing well. But, and I think this is where the tie-in comes, if he's playing well, the number doesn't reflect, I think, his ability to beat the rest of this field, where maybe the number reflects that he's not playing as well or he's inconsistent. But if you get somebody who is on in Sheamus power like we've seen, good Sheamus power is probably closer to Denny McCarthy's number, no?
Yeah, I think with a couple, like, ironically, if he hadn't played during swing season, I think his number would be much less, but he hasn't played well. And sometimes that's a blessing and a curse. I would rather have my guy play, even if he played poorly, than come in ice cold, to be honest. So I've seen him play enough. Again, he's still 25-1. Like, it's not like, oh, he should win. You're just asking,
can you win? That's a big number, though.
Yeah, it is. It's
like you have to play that number.
I am playing that number. That's where I'm starting my card. You're not going to Denny McCarthy, are you?
No.
Okay.
No. We've learned our lesson here that the flat stick is just too volatile for that to be your main. Like, you have to be on a royal heater, I think, at this point, right? Like to really bank the.
Yeah.
So I'm off. First off, and he's on top of that. To be honest with you, though, I think Thomas Dietrich at 20-1 becomes appealing here because of the number. Like, counter to the field, Sheamus power, I think, is the best find on the top tier, right?
Okay.
Because he's 25-1 and because he's shown the ability to hang with far deeper fields that are far top or that are much top heavier. With that said, you look at what Dietrich's been able to put together over the past stretch. We saw Sanderson, we saw Fortinet like just on the outside of that. So technically 2 top 12s, if you will. Vegas was Vegas. I understand that. He's not a top golfer in the world for a reason. He's going to have a couple of setbacks here, but I almost think this guy who has played well as of recent. We've also seen that stretch going back really the Corn Ferry, right? And you've brought him up, I believe you brought him up at least once earlier this year, right? For swing season. So I think he's just a guy right now. Sorry, Chris. I think he's just a guy right now that is playing well, has had that momentum coming in already from the Corn Ferry finals, if you will, and has an opportunity to take advantage of not Rory McIlroy or Scotty Scheffler or John Rahm or somebody like that lurking. And to be honest with you, I think Sheamus Power and a couple of other guys too, not having somebody like that on the leaderboard Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, what have you, where you're trying to make a push. That's Ben, you've been doing this a long time with this sport. You start taking away those mental blocks of, man, I need to make up 4 strokes on Rory McIlroy versus I need to make up 4 strokes on, Akshay Blabbit, right? What's his name? The guy that I have, Bhatia.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I was gonna say you just made random noises.
No.
But okay. I mean,
right? Like it's a lot easier to make up 4 strokes with Akshay Bhatia at the top than it is Rory McIlroy. Is my point.
that is
Okay,
confirmed. And the thing I like about Detry and a couple other
thank
guys,
you.
too, they followed a blueprint. We've seen this. Lucas Hebert, Higo, those types of guys, they come over, and
Yep.
if they're going to win on the PGA Tour, it's this type of event. The other thing, I've always said this, and I believe this. I would rather have my guy have experience in the hunt on Sunday in Europe and come over versus a guy who's a middling PGA Tour player playing against better players in the world consistently. But how often on Sunday? When's the last time they were in contention to win? Probably a while because they're playing much tougher. Thomas Detry has been playing in Europe before this stint. He's been in the hunt a ton. He's a guy that knows what it feels like to be under the gun, big shots on the weekend. Same with Moronk up there. Those are guys that have played in Europe. I think that experience to close, if you get in position, helps astronomically versus PGA Tour regulars who have gone years without, really contending because of level of competition.
So I imagine that's going to bring us to the mid-range as far as a strategy that you now apply here, right?
Yeah. So again, I think in fields like this where it's just open season and there's so many names, I mean, you could make a case for a million guys for different reasons. I'm going to try to decipher exactly kind of where I want to go. And guys like Benny On stood out. So he's someone was able to go to the Corn Ferry Tour and get more experience, get back in and win. Again, it's the same concept. Europe, Corn Ferry, not as good as the PGA Tour, but experience in the hunt. We saw him come back, came in fourth at Fortinet, 62nd last week. He was terrible. He lost strokes in all 4 categories. I don't really care, though. This is a guy that's a world-class scrambler, or around the green player, I should say. He can't putt at all. But when I look at his number, you're sitting square in the mid-range. You're going to find those 50 to 1s out there for a guy like Benny On. And then even, like EVR is the same concept. South African, prolific winner in Europe for a stretch, came over here, has played in bigger events. He had absolutely no form to speak of closing last year over on the PGA Tour, but it's still EVR. It's still a name that I think stands out amongst the rest.
Yeah, I like that. And, EVR at 66 to 1 is definitely an interesting play there. The number alone, I think, is fascinating because I would, if you just asked me off the bat, I wouldn't think that. I think it'd be lower than 6 to 1, to be honest with you. So 6 to 1 is fantastic. You're going to play Benny On until the main season
Forever.
starts, aren't you? Right?
Always going to play him.
Yes.
I love that guy.
Nothing wrong with that. At 50 to 1, I get it. It's a fine number.
Your opportunity cost.
Yep.
50 to 1. Just a couple names. Robbie Shelton, Will Gordon, Austin Eckroat. Like,
not
those
Austin
guys,
Eckler.
No, it might as well be Austin Eckler, though. Sorry. It's just.
I couldn't help it. Sorry.
I can't with these guys. I think that give me a guy that Benny On's been in big time positions. He went back. He did it the right way, got his card back via the Corn Ferry Tour. I like these spots. And I do think, of course, like most people, it's not even remotely far-fetched to think a first-time winner in the PGA Tour is going to occur this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good place to put it. I'm going to hit you with a guy who is teetering on that line of mid-range to going long, and you'll take it from there as far as some longer range players. But just focusing that point you made a little bit more narrow, you find a guy like Ryan Armour, who you don't have to do a lot with outside of this event. He has played well here before. He seems to have a sense of familiarity here before. And at 80 to 1, you can start looking at other guys and just ask, what correlates with their course history? Because you can make an argument that anybody at 8 to 1 is a better golfer or doing something better. If you wanted to look at Lucas Glover or CT Pan or the Hoff, right? Charlie Hoffman, like there are guys, Ben Griffin is another, Kevin Yu, what have you. Like there are some guys in there that you can argue are doing certain things better. But looking at a mid-range / long shot guy who at least has a sense of course history, top 10 finish, like that's what I would look at more so because of the elements and because at some point you're going to hit a solid 4-iron that just due to the nature of the course and the elements, is going to put you in a situation that you haven't hit at that course from before. That could be the difference of making the cut for a guy like Armour.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're getting into the 80-1 range at books here. That's
Sure.
why you want to shop that number. His irons haven't been what they were. He's going to have to correct that, like a lot of players here. The form is not going to be great. When he won and where he's really done damage, it's pretty simple. He's a wash off the tee. He's great with the irons, and he converts a lot of the putts. So you have the formula here, and this is not a difficult, it's not a lengthy course. It's more gimmicky with the wind, like most coastal tracks. That's what you get. So in the right conditions, there's a guy that's done it. He would be the other side of the spectrum, ton of data, ton of experience. He's not, we know who he is at this point. Like Thomas Detry could turn out to be amazing. In 5 years, we could look back and say, can you believe he played Bermuda? Ryan Armour is Ryan Armour, a talented, Correct. Solid PGA Tour player.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not going to shock anybody as far as his trajectory going upwards. Yeah, yep. I agree with that. All right, let's look at a couple of long shots, including a name that I just mentioned.
Again, this is what's so crazy about Bermuda. The long shots versus the favorites, it's almost all the same, to be honest. Like CT Pan, that's a guy, he's 80-1 right now. Even a guy like Tyler Duncan, who's a name that, we've seen him on tour do it. Both these guys are sitting in that 80-1-ish range. I could argue that with a couple different results that they would be amongst the favorites in a field like this. We saw a guy like T-Dunks win at a coastal track at RSM. That was several years ago. But again, you're not going to get everything you want. You're practically going to get anything you want when you look at these guys. And CT Pan is someone I love to target. Same correlation. Tyler Duncan won at RSM. CT Pan has really performed well at RSM, at OHL. He won at Heritage. These are all coastal, tricky, not driver-heavy courses. If the putter cooperates, these are the type of guys that easily could emerge at the top of the board.
Do you think, how much do you think age has to do with this?
In what sense?
Just when you have a weaker field and you don't have, because if the top heavy guys, there's a range, there are a couple of older guys for sure, but there's this new wave, right, of younger, fresher blood, not young all over, right? But I'm looking at a long shot here in Brian Gay, who's 50 years old, that's playing well in the Champions, that had another top 10 finish last week. And on top of that, has won here at Bermuda before. If a bunch of if Max Homa, Sam Burns, like if a bunch of guys are in this, forget the obvious ones in Rory and others, then his number is probably even less, right? It's like 250, I'm sure, something along those lines. So I get it with the field, but I don't know if I'm looking at somebody in that age range, or I would think it might put him out. But the guy is won here, and he does know the course, Ben.
Yeah, like anyone in those extreme odds, you know what you're getting. There's limitations for sure. But I will say, I'm gonna incorporate all the older players kind of into one bucket for this point. We see guys like Steve Stricker and Jim Furyk. It's not that they can't do it. It's that they can't do it every week at every course. Right. There are certain setups where they can still get where they need to go, and they're crafty and they can get up and down. You're not going to see them tackle Quail Hollow. It's just never going to happen. They don't have the distance. And I think Brian Gay belongs in that conversation. At a coastal track like this, he's not going to be overpowered. Like, it's just simply, will his game hold up? Probably not. It's the reality, but it's not like he's ruled out because of his off the tee deficiencies.
Yeah, and I think just to go back to one of the guys you referenced there, and that was where I was going back and forth between Armour and Pan initially, was that you don't have to worry about distance. No. And that makes a shorter player who's sharp and precise much more valuable, right?
Absolutely. Again, there are certain courses where you just know, like the strain off the tee, if you can't compete, it's almost impossible. You could be crafty and make the cut, but to win the event is truly far-fetched. Here, you could be in the right wave. And I want to be clear, we're doing this on Monday. We don't have tee times. You're going to want to check out the weather. That's why you want to lean on the tools here at OddsShopper and certainly at Stochastic, because some guys are going to get bad luck. Simple as that. And that's going to be a really important factor in this specific tournament.
All right, my friend, we have the 40-20-10, our final card, but let's again remind everybody about what's going on with our insider group. It's a quick link below. It's going to bring you on over to our insider betting package. You're going to get your first week free. Both of us are on there. Plenty more people are on there as well. And you have the option to just bounce around between channels and see how we all think, get behind the curtain, get inside our brains. And if there's anything that happens, live plays. So you know that Gajeski, Rasa are going to have you covered. Anything live popping in the Kansas State game, bang, jump on TCU, what have you. I'm going to throw some ridiculous kicker gate props out, which we hit a bunch over the weekend. And I was doing this earlier for the benefit of the videos that we were doing on the morning, Ben, where you and I were having a conversation earlier in the week about pushing an alternate first half line in the Patriots Bears game. I did push it to plus 110, played that, gave it out 5 days ago on the Discord. It is now moved to minus 110 as the actual first half play. So just another example. And I said, if I'm able to do this, imagine what you and like the smart people, which is basically everybody else, are able to do.
No, I mean, yeah, it's a fantastic group. I'm having such a blast. If nothing else, like I said, we all want to pick winners. We all know that, but it's just fun. Like, it's just so much more fun to sweat these games with a fun group of people. We're having a blast. We're talking things through. We're uncovering plays, and we get. I can speak for Eytan here. It's not just us giving you guys plays.
We got a
you
lot.
guys are giving us plays. Like, it's collaboration, and that's what's really great about it. So if you don't know what we're talking about and you say this sounds cool, but I don't really know what we're doing, just come in for the week. Just for the week for free, and then decide for yourself if you want to stick around. When you hop in, I know a lot of you have already done it, but when you hop in, tag me and Eytan, say what's up so we can know you're loyal listeners of the show.
Love it, man. We got a guy in Australia giving out plays.
Yeah, we got some people in there, man.
It's awesome, man. Awesome. All right, let's hit it. 40, 20, 10. You have to be plus money at 40, top 40. That's the only. I wanted to roll with Patrick Rogers here. Guy's made, 4 straight cuts. He's been a darling of this program, but he's on the wrong side of it. So, Ben Rasa, you going with another Ben? That's not Benny on?
He's a decent outright, Patrick Rogers, I will say.
At 30 to 1. He didn't make the show here, but you're right. At 30 to 1, like, think about it. Actually, you know what? Real quick. Let's just audible. It's not even an audible. It's just a quick timeout if we can. 30 to 1 Patrick Rogers all of a sudden becomes a better value as I'm speaking through this than both of our top tier guys, no?
Fourth at Bermuda last year, runner up at RSM, which is the course that I comped to with Tyler Duncan and with CT Pan. He's playing good golf, pedigree, short track, driver putter combo. Patrick Rogers, definitely a name that you can get behind this week.
Look, if Patrick Rogers wins this thing, we're going to take credit for it because we mentioned it. I just met because we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. That's all.
I mean, I probably still would have tried, but yeah, it'll be a lot easier this way. Patrick Rogers, give him a look. Ben Martin plus 150.
Let's do it.
Bermuda Benny, that's his name. Come on now. Again, he's not playing great golf, but he's playing during the swing season. Made 2 of 3 cuts. Hasn't done much with them, not inside the top 40. But again, look at where he's thrived. 2nd at Corrales, 3rd at Puerto Rico, 3rd at Heritage. These are the type of events that he wants to play. Short, coastal. He's got experience in Bermuda, hasn't played overly well, but I'll take that any day. 3 straight plus up on the approach in his last 3 events. Plus 150 for a top 40. Sign me up.
Yeah, that's not bad. Plus 150. You know, especially when you're looking at that top 40. I didn't anticipate that would be there for it, but the way in which he's played, I think, right?
He's been fine, but again, this is not even as bad as those events are. This is a drop in class from even Shriners and Fortnite.
No, I get it, man. All right, I'm gonna hit you. This is an asterisk, all right? Because if we get wind, if we get any inclination of rain, go and try and find somebody who either over in Europe or in the Corn Ferry Tour thrived in these types of conditions. Find somebody like Akshay Bhatia who won in the Bahamas. Find somebody who has been able to, like this 20-year-old from LA, been able to really play well in shitty conditions. And how many times have we talked about that, Ben, where if it's somebody coming from Europe playing in the Northeast or wherever it is comparable to in their respective tours, Bhatia's played well in bad conditions. So I think if you're looking at somebody that's little north of 2-1 to make the top 40, you're asking him to make the cut in bad conditions, which can be a huge mitigating factor for a lot of guys who just don't play well in that. So that's the strategy. That's why I didn't put him as a long shot here. I think that you can get him to make the cut, and all of a sudden, just north of 2-1 for a top 40 play, pending the weather, this could play out.
I mean, he's an interesting case. He's the type of guy, he could be the most undervalued player in the field because he's young and we don't have the data. He might have all the talent in the world. He also could be legitimately out of golf soon enough. Like some guys don't make it, and we just don't know. I always have some interest in players like that because the talent is there. We've seen him pop up. He came in he already top 10 at PGA Tour event in his career, his young career. So this is a guy you're going to have to stomach some bad no-shows. That's the nature of playing a guy who's still, you mentioned, he's out there as an 18-year-old. So that I get. Can he do it in a field like this? He should be a lot more comfortable in something like this, considering the level of competition.
By the way, that was a win, that top 10. So go ahead.
Well, that was, yeah, I mean, that's a Corn Ferry event.
Oh, so I'm sorry. Did you say PGA? Oh, I apologize.
No problem. But he also came in 9th at the Fortinet a couple years ago. Like that's a legitimate, that's a noteworthy bullet point. It just shows he can do it. He can do it.
I'll leave you with this thought here. This is the event in which you play him.
Correct.
Right? Like it's all goes back to what we said in the beginning here. This is an NFL week. You're taking on circumstances. You're taking on matchups, fits, things like that. It's not just bodies of work outside of what maybe somebody's done here or comp. All right. Final card, brother.
I think this is the type of week, unless you really have someone you love up top, I would bet more players at smaller units because there's just so many options.
Like that,
yeah. CT Pan, Tyler Duncan, Ben Eon, EVR, Patrick Rogers types. You can roll them up, smaller units. Maybe you sprinkle in 40, 20, 10s for these type of guys. I think Ben Martin is probably the wildest play that I have, but it's wide open. I think we all understand what we're getting into in Bermuda. Don't be afraid to add live. Weather is going to tell the tale, especially if it's difficult. Don't be afraid to add live. You're
with you. Yeah, no. I got it.
I want the people to hear what you're saying.
I got it before you could even get muted out. Here's the thing. And just
more
because,
true than not.
Well, I didn't know what the hell's going in the background. You could hear something break. God knows. But yeah, final card, pretty similar as we laid out here. Definitely looking at TD at the top 20 as well. I know you're going to pay maybe a little bit. I think the biggest ladder for me, and maybe the biggest play here, actually, after talking through this, like I'm with you. These are smaller unit bets across the board. The one bet that I might put a full unit on, Ben, is Patrick Rogers plus 160 top 20.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I love doing these shows. Sometimes you work through things on the fly. And Patrick Rogers, the more you dig, the more you like. It's pretty apparent that he's a name that you want to consider this week.
3 cuts in a row. Sorry, I think I said 4 earlier.
He's playing good golf.
He was 4th here last year.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And RSM, he's got the RSM.
That's why you mentioned the comparison. Yeah.
Like it all checks out.
Look, you know what's amazing is that we got a full worth a show here.
We could have gone another half hour.
I can't believe this. Seriously. And what are we asking? That you hit the thumbs up button and you subscribe. Take advantage of free money. It's waiting for you below at BetMGM. Sign up, $10, bet it on any NHL money line. It will turn into $200 as soon as a player scores a goal. And then you can come hang with us on that link also below on the betting package with our insider group. You can hang with both of us and everybody else that's a part of it. So, Ben, next week, right?
Next week, always.
PGA by the way, sorry, real quick, because you're about to tell everybody about what's happening moving forward. I just want to remind you, if you're watching this when this drops, which is every Monday in the afternoon, this is it. That BetMGM promo, which is essentially giving away $190, that's going to expire Tuesday night. I just want to get that out there, Ben. That's all.
No, important for the people to know. These deals don't come around. Why you hear this on all the videos at OddsShopper? Because it doesn't last forever. And then a lot of people are like, man, I wish I took advantage of that. That is the truth. Certainly, we got a ton of content here at OddsShopper. If you're looking for more EGA, college basketball soon enough, but NCAA football, NFL, NBA, NHL. If it is going on, it is here at OddsShopper. Join this community. We love you guys for tuning in each and every week. And of course, next week, more golf. Never ends. Cannot wait. Let's cash some tickets.
Love it. Thanks, Chris, for producing. We'll see you then.